my fellow Americans, and citizens of a world now connected more closely than ever before, we find ourselves at the dawn of a new chapter, one that promises incredible progress, but also carries profound risks. The rise of artificial intelligence is not just about smarter machines or faster technology. It is about the kind of society we want to build, the kind of democracy we want to protect, and the kind of power we entrust to tools we do not fully understand. The question before us is not whether AI will reshape politics. It already is. The real question is whether we will shape it with wisdom, fairness, and integrity, or whether we will allow it to deepen our divisions, manipulate our choices, and corrode the very foundations of democracy. The story of democracy has always been shaped by the tools of its time. In ancient Athens, it was the spoken word echoing through open forums. In the 20th century, it was the radio, the television screen, and the headline in the morning newspaper. Today, in the 21st century, it is the algorithm, the unseen, often unchallenged force that curates what we read, what we see, and even how we feel about our leaders. Artificial intelligence is no longer something confined to research labs or futuristic films. It has entered the bloodstream of politics itself, influencing campaigns, shaping debates, and, in some cases, deciding outcomes. The digital revolution is not coming. It has already arrived. The question is whether democracy will master this force, or whether it will be mastered by it. Consider a modern political campaign. Decades ago, a candidate relied on volunteers knocking on doors, a few televised debates, and the editorial decisions of newspapers. Today, AI-driven analytics can scan through billions of data points in seconds, predicting not only who is likely to vote, but what message will resonate most with that individual. The color of a banner, the tone of a sentence, the placement of an ad, these are no longer left to gut instinct. They are tested, optimized, and refined by machine learning. What once was a game of intuition has now become a science of precision. And that precision, while powerful, raises a hook worth considering if algorithms know us better than we know ourselves. Then how much of our choice is truly our own? We've already seen glimpses of this transformation on the global stage. Campaigns in the United States, Europe, Africa, and beyond have employed AI tools to target voters with surgical accuracy. Social media platforms, fueled by AI recommendation engines, decide which messages go viral and which voices remain invisible. In the process, a new type of political battlefield has emerged, one where influence is measured not by town halls or rallies, but by clicks, shares, and digital impressions. The battleground is not the public square, but the feed on your phone. And in that feed, truth and propaganda compete on equal footing. Yet it is not only campaigns that have harnessed this technology. Governments themselves are experimenting with AI to analyze public opinion, predict unrest, and even draft policy. Imagine a leader who doesn't have to wait for pollsters to call thousands of households, but can instead rely on an algorithm scanning real-time conversations across millions of posts online. At first, this seems efficient, even progressive. But the hook lies in this: if power can access so much information about us and use it to anticipate our behavior, then where does free will end and manipulation begin? The line grows thinner every day. For all its risks, however, AI also offers opportunities. In nations where voter participation has historically been low, AI can help identify communities that face barriers to access and recommend targeted outreach strategies. In countries struggling with bureaucratic inefficiencies, machine learning can cut through red tape, making governments more transparent and effective. The potential for positive change is enormous. Imagine technology not as a weapon of manipulation, but as a bridge connecting citizens more closely to the decisions that shape their lives. And yet, this duality is exactly what makes the digital revolution so urgent and so dangerous. On one hand, AI gives us tools to expand democracy, to reach the unheard, to empower the marginalized. On the other, it risks turning democracy into a performance managed by machines, where citizens become passive consumers rather than active participants. The hook is sharp. Democracy thrives when people choose. But what happens when people are nudged, guided, or even tricked into choices without realizing it? History teaches us that every technological leap carries with it both progress and peril. The printing press gave birth to enlightenment, but also spread propaganda. Radio and television informed millions, but also amplified demagogues. AI will be no different. It will be what we allow it to become. And as it becomes more deeply embedded in the fabric of politics, the stakes will only rise. We are not simply deciding how campaigns are run, we are deciding how democracy itself will function in an age where the power of persuasion no longer rests in human hands alone. The rise of AI in politics forces us to confront uncomfortable but necessary truths. If the tools of democracy evolve, then so must our responsibility to safeguard it. If algorithms have entered the arena, then citizens must demand transparency, accountability, and fairness. Because in the end, the digital revolution in politics is not about machines. It is about us, our values, our vigilance, and our willingness to ensure that technology serves democracy, rather than the other way around. There is a saying that truth is the first casualty of war. In the digital age, that war is fought not on battlefields, but in the realm of information. With the rise of artificial intelligence, disinformation has found new weapons. Faster, sharper, and far more convincing than ever before. Once upon a time, a rumor might take weeks or months to spread. Today, a fabricated video or AI generated image can circle the globe in seconds. The stakes are enormous because democracy itself depends on an informed public. And if people cannot agree on what is real, how can they ever agree on what is right? Consider the deepfake, a video that looks so authentic, so lifelike, that even experts sometimes struggle to identify it as false. Imagine a candidate shown accepting a bribe, or a world leader declaring war, when neither event ever happened. The power of such fabrications lies not only in convincing those who see them, but in eroding trust altogether. Even if the video is later debunked, the damage lingers. The hook here is devastating. When people no longer trust their own eyes and ears, when every fact can be dismissed as fake, then truth itself becomes negotiable. This is not a distant threat. It is happening right now. In recent years, AI-driven disinformation campaigns have attempted to influence elections across continents. False stories, amplified by bots and recommendation algorithms, have divided communities and inflamed tensions. A headline that confirms your fears is more likely to spread, even if it's a lie. An image that stokes anger will travel faster than one that inspires calm. The technology is designed to reward engagement, and nothing engages like outrage. That is the hook that draws millions in. A cycle where lies flourish because they are louder, sharper, and more addictive than the truth. But it isn't just about false content. It's about the echo chambers that AI creates. Algorithms learn what we like, what we share, what makes us pause and read, and then they give us more of it. Over time, we see less of the world as it is and more of the world as we already believe it to be. Two neighbors might live on the same street, but their online realities are galaxies apart. One is fed a steady diet of one narrative, while the other receives the exact opposite. The result is a society where we no longer just disagree. We live in entirely different realities. And when reality itself is fractured, democracy begins to crack. The consequences reach beyond politics. Disinformation fueled by AI has spread conspiracy theories about vaccines, disasters, and even basic scientific facts. Lives have been lost because lies traveled faster than medical advice. Fear has been weaponized, suspicion has been sharpened, and trust in institutions has eroded. The hook here is personal. When disinformation infiltrates your family, your community, your conversations at the dinner table, it doesn't feel like a political issue anymore. It feels like a threat to the very fabric of daily life. Yet, amidst this chaos, there is also an urgent call to responsibility. AI itself is not inherently malicious. It mirrors human intent. It can be used to detect falsehoods as much as to create them, to strengthen trust as much as to destroy it. The danger arises not from the technology alone, but from our failure to put safeguards in place. Without transparency, without accountability, disinformation will continue to evolve faster than our defenses. The reality we must face is this: democracy cannot survive without trust, and trust cannot survive without truth. When disinformation is allowed to spread unchecked, it doesn't just distort politics, it destabilizes the very idea of shared reality. And once shared reality is gone, the foundations of democracy tremble. The fight against disinformation is not about silencing voices. It is about protecting the voice of truth itself. And that is a battle we cannot afford to lose. Power has always been tied to knowledge, and in our time, knowledge is collected, stored, and analyzed in ways our grandparents could scarcely imagine. Artificial intelligence has made surveillance sharper and more intrusive, turning the smallest details of our lives into data points that can be tracked, sold, or weaponized. Every click, every search, every pause on a video adds another brushstroke to a portrait of who we are. And while much of this information may seem harmless, what shoes we buy, what shows we watch, the real hook is this: when AI can predict not just what we like, but what we believe, then it can influence what we choose, including how we vote. That is where privacy collides with politics, and where democracy itself finds a new kind of challenge. Around the world, governments are already harnessing AI systems to monitor citizens. In some places, surveillance cameras equipped with facial recognition follow people through city streets, logging every movement. Algorithms scan social media posts, analyzing not just the words we use, but the emotions we display. For those in power, it is an irresistible tool. Why guess what the people think when you can track it in real time? Yet the hook is chilling. When the state knows more about its citizens than citizens know about the state, accountability disappears. The balance of power shifts, silently but profoundly, away from the people and toward the watchers. Corporations, too, are part of this surveillance web. Tech companies gather more personal data than most governments ever could, feeding it into machine learning models that predict behavior with uncanny accuracy. That data is often sold to political campaigns who can then tailor messages not just to communities, but to individuals. A single voter might receive one carefully crafted message about health care while their neighbor receives another about taxes, both designed by AI to strike just the right chord. The campaign trail has become invisible, scattered across millions of private screens, impossible to monitor, and nearly impossible to regulate. The hook here is hidden in plain sight. When politics becomes personalized to the point of invisibility, the very idea of a shared public debate begins to fade. This power to watch and predict has other consequences. Surveillance, once normalized, does not stay confined to politics. It seeps into workplaces, schools, even our homes through smart devices. What begins as convenience, voice assistants, predictive shopping lists, can slowly become dependency, and dependency breeds vulnerability. If a company or a government can switch off the tools we rely on, can nudge us with subtle suggestions, or can limit our access to information, then freedom becomes fragile, no matter how intact it looks on paper. The hook is sobering. Freedom is not only about the right to speak, but the right not to be watched while doing so. At the same time, it is important to recognize that surveillance, when used responsibly, can serve the public good. AI has helped track the spread of diseases, identify threats before they erupt into violence, and manage traffic in crowded cities. But the problem is not in the technology itself. It is in who controls it and to what end. The same tools that can keep us safe can also be turned against us, silencing dissent, punishing opposition, and consolidating power in the hands of the few. History teaches us that unchecked power rarely remains benign for long. The rise of AI, surveillance, forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Democracy is built on trust. But trust cannot exist without transparency. If citizens are constantly observed, constantly analyzed, constantly reduced to data, then the relationship between government and governed changes at its core. People begin to self-censor, to hesitate before speaking out, to feel that their every move is recorded. In such an atmosphere, democracy does not vanish in a single stroke. It withers quietly until freedom becomes a memory rather than a reality. So the central challenge of this moment is to recognize the dual nature of AI surveillance. It can illuminate or it can intimidate. It can empower or it can oppress. And the difference will depend on the choices we make now before the lines between privacy and politics disappear altogether. The hook remains sharp. The more we allow machines to watch us, the less we may remember how to watch over our own democracy. In every era of history, new technologies have arrived with a mix of fear and promise. The printing press terrified monarchs because it gave ordinary people access to knowledge. The radio unsettled elites because it allowed new voices to reach millions. Television reshaped politics by bringing the face of leaders into living rooms. And now, artificial intelligence carries the same double-edged potential. It can be a weapon that divides, but it can also be a tool that strengthens democracy in ways we could hardly imagine a generation ago. The hook is simple but powerful. The same algorithms that can deceive us are also capable of helping us govern better, more fairly, and with more inclusion. Imagine a democracy where no voice goes unheard because AI helps identify who has been left out of the process. In places where voter participation has long been low, machine learning can detect patterns. Who struggles to access polling stations, who faces language barriers, who lacks the information needed to participate. Armed with that knowledge, governments and civic organizations can create solutions from mobile polling units to multilingual platforms that give every citizen a fair chance. The technology that once targeted us with ads can instead target inequality and break it apart. That is a hook worth holding onto. Technology doesn't just know who we are, it can remind us who we've forgotten. AI can also make governance more transparent. Bureaucracy has always been the shadow side of democracy. Slow, confusing, sometimes impenetrable. But algorithms can help process applications more efficiently, track the flow of public funds with greater accuracy, and detect corruption patterns invisible to human auditors. Citizens could one day see, in real time, how their tax dollars are spent, where their representatives stand, and how policy decisions impact their communities. Instead of closing doors, technology could open windows into the very heart of government. That shift would not just build efficiency, it would build trust. And in a time when trust is dangerously low, that might be the greatest gift AI can offer. Consider also the power of connection. Democracy is about dialogue, but dialogue is often limited by geography, by access, by privilege. AI-driven platforms can create forums where citizens debate policies across borders, languages, and time zones. Translation algorithms already allow people from different nations to communicate seamlessly. Imagine that power applied to civic engagement. A farmer in Iowa could share concerns with an activist in Nairobi, and both could contribute to a global understanding of issues like climate change or trade. The hook here is striking. Democracy, once confined to nations, could evolve into something more global, powered by technology that erases barriers rather than builds them. Even in policymaking itself, AI offers opportunities. Complex issues like healthcare systems, economic forecasts, or climate models require data analysis on a scale no human brain can match. AI can provide lawmakers with simulations, outcomes, and evidence-based projections, helping them make better decisions for the people they serve. Of course, the final judgment must remain human, guided by values and ethics. But the tools at their disposal can be sharper, more accurate, and more responsive. Imagine policies shaped not by guesswork or ideology, but by a clearer understanding of reality. That vision, though imperfect, hints at a politics where decisions are grounded in facts rather than spin. But none of this will happen automatically. The promise of AI in democracy depends entirely on how it is directed. Left unchecked, it can deepen divides, but guided with intention, it can expand freedom. The hook is urgent. The same tools used to manipulate voters can be used to empower them. The same platforms that spread disinformation can spread education. The choice is not about the technology itself. It is about the values we encode into it. In the end, the opportunities of AI remind us of something fundamental: democracy is not static. It evolves, it adapts, it survives by responding to new challenges. If we embrace AI with wisdom, we can make this evolution a story of progress rather than decline. The task is not to fear the machine, but to ensure it serves the citizen. And in that pursuit lies one of the greatest possibilities of our time. A democracy not weakened by technology, but renewed by it. Every leap forward in human history has forced us to confront the same question. Just because we can, does it mean we should? With artificial intelligence entering the world of politics, that question grows louder and more urgent. For the first time, we have tools that can replicate human voices, fabricate convincing realities, and analyze behavior at a scale beyond imagination. The ethical crossroads we face is not just about machines. It is about ourselves, our values, and our willingness to place limits on power, even when it promises convenience or advantage. The hook is clear. Technology is advancing faster than our laws and faster than our moral frameworks, leaving us in a race between innovation and accountability. Think of the deepfake technology that can generate a candidate giving a speech they never gave. On one hand, it is a marvel of creativity, showing how far science has come. On the other, it is a weapon capable of eroding trust in an instant. Once a video like that circulates, the damage is done, even if it is later disproven. The ethical dilemma is not in creating the technology, but in deciding how, when, and why it should be used. And the bigger dilemma is this: who gets to decide? Corporations that profit from its spread, governments that may be tempted to exploit it, or citizens who are often left powerless to control it. Artificial intelligence also presents ethical challenges in fairness. Algorithms are not neutral. They reflect the data they are trained on. If historical records contain bias, as they often do, then AI can replicate and even amplify those biases. Imagine an algorithm used to predict voter behavior, but trained on flawed or discriminatory data. It could end up reinforcing inequalities, privileging some groups while sidelining others. In a democracy that promises equality, the idea of a machine quietly coding inequality into the process is not just unsettling. It is unacceptable. The hook here lies in the hidden nature of the problem. Bias in an algorithm is invisible, yet its consequences are very real. The temptation for governments to misuse AI is another fork in this ethical road. Surveillance systems justified in the name of security can slide into tools of control. Predictive policing, designed to prevent crime, can morph into discriminatory targeting. Campaign analytics, intended to engage voters, can become tools of manipulation. History teaches us that unchecked power rarely remains benevolent. And yet, the seduction of efficiency, the promise that technology can solve problems faster than people, makes it easy to ignore the ethical boundaries we cross. There is also the question of responsibility. When an AI-driven campaign spreads misinformation or manipulates voters, who is held accountable? The programmer who wrote the code, the company that built the system, the candidate who benefited from its use. Democracy depends on accountability, but AI muddies those waters. Without clear lines of responsibility, the risk is that no one is answerable, even when great harm is done. The hook here cuts deep when no one is accountable, everyone loses trust, and without trust, democracy cannot survive. At the heart of this ethical debate is the role of human judgment. Machines can calculate, predict, and replicate, but they cannot feel. They do not know the weight of justice, the meaning of freedom, or the value of dignity. Those are human judgments, and they must remain at the center of political decision making. The danger comes when we forget that distinction, when we allow efficiency to replace empathy or convenience to replace conscience. The crossroads we face is not abstract, it is immediate. If we choose to let AI operate without ethical guardrails, it could turn politics into a game where truth is optional and manipulation is routine. But if we choose wisely, with transparency and accountability, it could become a partner in strengthening democracy. The hook is timeless. The tools of power may change, but the responsibility to use them justly remains the same. The future of power is being written in code, shaped by algorithms, and influenced by technologies that most citizens will never see and may never fully understand. For centuries, power was defined by armies, by wealth, by control of land and resources. Today, it is increasingly defined by information. Who controls it, who shapes it, and who decides what becomes visible and what remains hidden. Artificial intelligence has accelerated this shift, creating a world where influence can be wielded not through speeches in public squares, but through targeted messages on private screens. The hook is stark. The future of power will not be decided only by those who win elections, but by those who control the digital tools that shape elections in the first place. In politics, power has always been about persuasion. Leaders rise and fall on their ability to move hearts and minds. But persuasion has entered a new age. No longer is it about a candidate addressing the nation on television. It is about algorithms delivering messages to individuals based on their fears, hopes, and habits. One voter may see a video that stokes anxiety about immigration, while another sees a story emphasizing economic opportunity, all crafted by AI, all designed to press the exact psychological buttons most likely to produce a desired response. The battlefield of persuasion has shifted from the collective to the personal, and that shift carries consequences. When politics becomes a private experience, when each citizen receives a different version of reality, the very notion of a shared democratic process is put at risk. At the same time, the power of AI extends beyond elections. Governments are beginning to use AI to shape policy, predict unrest, and even anticipate public opinion before it is voiced. This may sound efficient, even futuristic, but it also raises a dangerous question. If leaders can anticipate dissent before it happens, will they act to address it or to silence it? The hook is unsettling. When power can predict the future, it may be tempted to control it, narrowing the space for genuine debate and democratic disagreement. Corporations, too, play a central role in this new balance of power. Tech giants that design and own AI systems now wield influence greater than some governments. Their platforms decide what billions of people read, watch, and believe every day, when those platforms amplify disinformation or silence certain voices, they shape the political landscape as surely as any election. Yet they often operate with little oversight, guided more by profit than by principle. The question we must ask is this: should the future of democracy be decided in boardrooms rather than ballot boxes? Still, within this shifting balance of power lies an opportunity. AI has the potential to democratize knowledge, to give citizens more direct access to facts, to bring marginalized voices into the conversation. Imagine a future where young people in small towns can participate in national debates with the same influence as those in capital cities, where policy decisions are informed by real, time citizen input rather than distant assumptions. If directed with care, AI could make democracy more participatory, more inclusive, and more responsive. The hook is hopeful. The same tools that can consolidate power can also distribute it more widely than ever before. But the danger cannot be ignored. Power has a way of protecting itself. Those who benefit from AI's influence may resist efforts to regulate it, to make it transparent, to return control to the people. Left unchecked, this technology could deepen inequalities, leaving citizens less powerful and less free. The future of power, then, is not simply about machines. It is about the choices we make now, in this moment of transition. The test before us is whether we will allow AI to narrow democracy into a system managed by invisible hands, or whether we will use it to expand democracy into something stronger and more resilient. The hook is this: the future of power is not predetermined. It will not be written by machines alone. It will be written by us, by our courage, our vigilance, and our commitment to ensure that technology serves the people, not the other way around. And that's why conversations like this matter. Because democracy is only as strong as the people who defend it. If you believe in this mission, if you want to be part of building a future where truth and unity prevail, then I invite you to join us. This is my official channel. Subscribe, stay connected, and let's continue this journey together.